Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom, Lahitraot, Lahitraot, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom, Lahitraot, Lahitraot, Shalom, Shalom.
Good morning. My name is Jenn, Katon, and I'm a member of the Worship and Music Committee. I will be your worship associate for today. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. If you are new and not familiar with the building, please reach out to one of our greeters. And welcome to this weekend's service at First Parish Plymouth Congregation. The theme today is living together in peace. The first part of our service is recorded. During the benediction, the recording will end and we'll go into our candles section. This section is not recorded. This service, as with all services, will be posted on Facebook, our Facebook page, and on YouTube. Today, service is presented by our Reverend Lavoie. Our technical director is Linda Harding, and live music is performed by Sylvie. With regards to offerings, we are not passing the basket at this point. If you are able, you can place your donations in the basket in the back, either before or after service starts. First Parish also accepts online offerings. You can schedule a monthly, the line on this is making me cuckoo. Offering on PayPal, and can learn more online on our website. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, whomever you love, whatever you believe, come walk with us this hour. Come walk together this hour.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Arthur Lavoie. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I'd like to make a special welcome this morning to anyone who is watching us online, whether on YouTube, on Facebook, or on one of the local public access television stations. We are delighted to be able to broadcast this service and to know that there are people who can connect with us who are not able to be present in the sanctuary this morning. So thank you for joining us. Welcome to this First Parish Church community. And I hope that you can check our website at some point, which is firstparishplymouthuu.org, so that you might find out some more information about us. And if you need to contact us or would like to speak to me or someone in the congregation, please, you can do that through the website, get my contact information. So welcome, and we're thrilled to have you with us this morning.
Our call to worship comes to us by Isaiah 11:6. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the lion and the fatted calf together, and a child shall lead them.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. tears like the raindrops in my soul, but I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. 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 I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
Please rise as willing and able and join me in saying the words of our chalice lighting, printed in your order of service book. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. Can you turn this down?
Yeah. Well, are you still wearing the other one?
I'm not wearing any. No,
Okay.
I'm not using the. Well, I don't know why this is so. Yeah, because it's, yeah, I think that's better. Okay, good. So, Deb is off today, and I'm going to take her place a little bit and for the time for all ages this morning. So, for our service this morning, we're talking about living together in peace. And that is part of your covenant statement that we just said when we lit the chalice. So we're kind of going through some of and creating services around some of those phrases. So we have all just been through a couple of years of learning how to live together again. And kind of being quarantined together, families being, people working from home and having multiple computer setups. And so what I want to do is ask all of you, what have we learned about how to live together in a family setting? What are the skills that we have learned in order to live together in peace? Anyone? Ron.
I've been told I need to talk more quietly.
Talk more quietly. Linda's waving her hand about that one too. Talk more quietly, okay? Give each other space. Sharon agrees with that one. Debbie?
So I thought I was good at multitasking before, but having to work at home and having my two teenagers there with me gave me new multitasking skills.
New multitasking skills, working from home and helping teenagers or children with their Zoom schooling. Yeah. Lots of agreement there. Other skills that we have learned that, Cheryl.
I think it changed, for us, it changed the sort of the natural order of chores. Like, the person who's home is doing this, the person who's working is doing that,
Right.
all those things.
The order of chores, the natural order of chores that might have shifted.
Not that they were natural.
Yeah.
The decided order of chores.
Huh?
Nothing.
No, I'm sorry.
Just that they weren't natural order of chores, they were just our order of chores.
Yeah, right. The way chores were done has shifted so that the person who was at home was doing more. Jane?
Learning how to do a week's shopping, grocery shopping in one trip.
Yes. Learning how to do a week's grocery shopping in one trip. Yeah. Or stretching it out to 10 days. Sometimes I was able to do that.
Okay, so I live by myself, so that's not hard. Except what I learned was how important it is to reach out to other people and the different ways to do that, whether it's technology or, anyway, so that's what I learned.
Right.
How important it is.
Yes. Yes. And that for those of us who are more introverted, like myself, we can get used to that isolation and reaching out can start to be challenging when we get used to isolation, right? And so we have to learn to do this too.
I think that we learn how to be a little more creative due to supply chain issues.
Yes, being more creative. Okay. Chris?
Well, some professions, like your truck driver, you never work from home.
Right. You never worked from home, but you did have a bunch of time off, and you learned to walk around town a lot.
Yeah.
I learned
I wish I was closer to retirement.
A lot of people are saying that, right? That they wish they were closer to retirement and finding ways to do that. So all of those skills that we have been learning these last couple of years in our families and home situations also help us in larger circles, whether that's a work situation, churches, in our larger communities. All of those same skills, those kind of adaptive flexibility skills that we have been learning these last couple of years can also help us in the larger circles of our lives. Sharon, thank you so much for taking the kids this morning, and as Sharon and the kids leave, we will sing them out.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Our first reading comes from Lavoie. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. The second reading is The Fist by Mary Oliver. There are days when the sun goes down like a fist, though of course, if you see anything in the heavens in this way, you'd better get your eyes checked. Or better still, your diminished spirit. The heavens has no fist. Or would have been shaking it for 1,000 years now, and even longer than that, with the dull, brutish ways of mankind, heaven's own creation. Instead, such patience, such willingness to let us continue to hear little by little the voices only so far in the pockets of the world, suggesting the possibilities of peace. Keep looking. Behold how the fist opens with invitation.
Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be our house of peace.
UU minister Stephen Schick writes, "When injustice threatened our innocence, we clamped down our breastplates of certainty. Protected hearts aching for justice, we put on righteousness as a coat of armor. Sharpening angry words, thrust spears of judgment. After the battles, we counted our casualties, mourned our losses, then cried, 'Peace, peace,' and there was no peace." Peace, my friends, is not what we can claim when we have won some protracted battle, when we have put on the armor of self-righteousness and judgment and hurled our weapons at one another. Peace is a way of life, a way of being in the world, where we check our egos at the door and approach ourselves and each other with a more open and respectful posture, knowing that we're not always right, and we sure don't have all the answers to the deep and vexing questions of life. When I was the minister in Dorchester, there was a large Catholic church, St. Peter's, just a block away across the town green, kind of like from here to the post office. The neighborhood had transitioned from mostly Irish families to a large Cape Verdean population that lives there today. Both the Irish and Cape Verdeans are Catholic immigrant groups, very involved with this huge Catholic church. There was lots of poverty in that neighborhood and a lack of opportunity or access to services. Many of the youth in that neighborhood were involved in gangs, and some were being killed. That church had held more funerals for young people than you can imagine. A few years into my ministry, Father Jack became the lead priest for a few churches in that area, including St. Peter's. And we worked together, along with other community leaders and heads of local agencies, on issues affecting the neighborhood. First Parish held an annual Fund Another First Parish. A lot of these UU churches in New England are called First Parish, in whatever town. First Parish held an annual fundraising dinner every spring to support the efforts for the restoration of our building. And I invited some of those community leaders as my guests every year, including Father Jack. One year, the theme of our gala dinner was the 10th anniversary of marriage equality. Knowing the Catholic Church's position on marriage equality and LGBTQ issues, I approached Jack with some trepidation to extend that year's invitation, letting him know that I would understand if he were not able to be there. He looked at me and he shook his head and he said, "Seriously? With all of the issues we're dealing with in this neighborhood, who people are sleeping with is the least of my concern. I'd be honored to attend." You see, Jack and I had found common ground over the years working in that neighborhood. We had each other's back. I had attended functions and funerals in his church, including the very powerful Good Friday ritual. Catholics, as some of you might know, have this worship and prayer ritual called the Stations of the Cross, commemorating Jesus' journey to be crucified. Well, at St. Peter's, they carried a cross through the neighborhood, stopping at different places where people had been murdered, telling the stories, naming those mostly young men, along with the prayers of the Catholic ritual. I was honored to participate and lend my support to the grieving families along that route. Building the bonds of peace takes a lot of work. Whether that happens in a family, in an organization like a church community, or in any of the larger social settings in which we find ourselves. Once you build those connections, it is less difficult to deal with those things that might divide us. And the first step really needs to be to put our egos and our assumptions aside and be able to listen deeply to each other's concerns, values, and stories. Then we look for common ground, the things we can agree on, the things we either enjoy doing together or need to do together for the sake of whatever it is we're involved with. Through this process, we explore our shared values and expand what we can accomplish together based on these. Trust and understanding can then be built so that we have some mutual connection that will help us when opposing issues arise. Now, some of you may have been surprised this morning with the image on the front of the order of service. We have this kind of popular notion that there's a biblical story about the lion lying down with the lamb, and that's kind of gone throughout our popular culture. But that image does not appear in any of the biblical writings. I don't know how that image got imprinted on us. I looked it up. Went through this warren of articles on, that I found online, and anyway, all speculation, but in our call to worship this morning, we see that the actual biblical quote talks about the wolf lying down with the lamb. So, in truth, the biblical writers knew that the wolf was the natural predator who would hunt a lamb. There probably aren't any lions, in the Middle East. And there probably aren't many sheep in the African desert. So that kind of makes sense, the wolf and the lamb. But isn't this a great example, though, of how our communication and our understanding of things and our perception of others can get twisted? We come up with some assumption and swear that it is the God-given truth when the facts might tell a different story. We all can get caught up in this at some point or another, and we see it very clearly in our political system today. In churches, we say things like, well, this is the way it's always been, and this is the way we do things in this church or in this family or in our society. We therefore don't need to try anything new or incorporate other cultures or practices in what we do. We carve our assumptions into stone as if they were the 10 Commandments. And often refuse to deal with the misperceptions that we carry around with us. What would it be like to let go of some of these and encounter each other with a more open mind and heart? The last line of the biblical quote says, "A child shall lead them." Of course, in Christian theology, that child is expected to refer to the Christ child, and that's the end of the story. But I don't think that's what the writers of Isaiah were talking about. In order to live in peace, we all have to take on a more childlike state. A child, as we all know, is open-hearted and willing to accept so much more than we do as adults. A child approaches the world without fear or the inflated ego that most of us have. Buddhists would call this shoshin, or beginner's mind, where we see things more openly without all of the baggage that we often carry. Rachel Carson writes, "A child's world is fresh and new and beautiful, full of wonder and excitement. It is our misfortune that for most of us, that clear-eyed vision, that true instinct for what is beautiful and awe-inspiring is dimmed and even lost before adulthood." Lao Tzu is purported to be the author of the Tao Te Ching, which is from the 4th century BCE, before the Common Era, though there are some sources that claim that he lived 200 years before that. He's also the author of our first reading that reminds us that there can never be peace in the world without peace in the nation, the city, the family, and most importantly, peace in our hearts. What might that look like for us? Perhaps it means that when we want to express our anger or concern to someone, we take some time to think about how to express it in a way that it can be heard by that other person. It's not going to do any good to blast them with heated rhetoric and to just let our anger hang out. Sure, we might feel better having done that, but it will further alienate our relationship with them rather than bring healing. Perhaps we learn to listen more deeply, putting aside the critical loop that is running through our heads. Perhaps we can ask the kinds of questions that let people know that we are truly interested in getting to know them better. Perhaps we can look more closely at the ways that we are triggered or made uncomfortable by someone who is different from us and recognize, this is my issue, not theirs. I don't have to put my discomfort on them. The peaceful, nonviolent posture is one of more open-hearted welcoming. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about the nonviolent approach to human interaction and social change. And he spoke often of the interrelatedness of all beings. In one beautiful passage that he wrote, which is part of a reading in the back of our hymnal, he says, "We are all caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. That network and that garment is what we talk about when we refer to the web of life in our seventh principle. If we think about that web, we know that there is a spiritual line, thread, that connects each and every one of us. You damage one thread and it affects the whole web. You repair one connection and it strengthens the whole fabric of interrelationships. It is time to change our way of viewing life and the people around us. In the metaphor from Mary Oliver's poem, we need to stop seeing the setting sun or ourselves or anything as a fist. Instead, it is incumbent upon us to see the openness and abundance of this great universal spirit that offers us so much patience and benevolence as we make our way. Let us strive to emulate that same spirit of openness and open-hearted benevolence. Amen, and blessed be.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
benediction this morning comes from the words of Mark Bellatini. Go in peace. Live simply, gently, at home in yourselves. Act justly, speak justly. Remember the depth of your own compassion. Forget not your power in the days of your powerlessness. Do not desire to be wealthier than your peers. Instint not your hand of charity. Practice forbearance. Speak the truth or speak not. Take care of yourselves as bodies, for you are a good gift. Crave peace for all people in the world, beginning with yourselves. And go as you go with the dream of that peace in your hearts. Amen.